In FM23, player retraining can be a useful way of plugging gaps in your squad. So in this video, we're going to take 3 players who've all had a disappointing season and try and rejuvenate their careers as well as improve the fortunes of their clubs by retraining their position on the field. So this video was of course inspired by Newcastle United player Joelinton. Originally signed and deployed as a striker in the side, the arrival of new coach Eddie Howe transformed him into a central midfielder. And if such a high-profile player can be reborn through a simple retraining of their position, it got me wondering which FM23 flops we might be able to rejuvenate by changing the role that they play on the field. So we've loaded up a game and we're going to be focusing on Premier League clubs. And to begin with, we're going to play through an entire season. But now that season is complete, we're going to go hunting for Premier League stars who've had a disappointing campaign. And to begin with, why not start at bottom club Southampton, who've had just 4 wins all season and been relegated to England's Championship. Disappointingly, they've managed just 27 goals in 38 league games, so they must have some misfiring strikers in the Joelinton mould, such as 26-year-old Scottish international Che Adams. In total, he made 36 appearances for the Saints, scoring just 6 goals, contributing 1 assist and amassing an average rating of just 6.64. But could he be the catalyst to a swift return to the Premier League for the Saints next season if we retrain his position? He's already incredibly versatile and can play out wide or as an attacking midfielder, but as yet, he has no ability to play in the central midfield. But Adams is good physically and has passing and vision of 15 as well as teamwork and work rate of 16. It only seems to be his marking and positioning that lets him down as a central midfielder. But could we retrain Che Adams as a Mazzala or even an advanced playmaker or potentially a central midfielder on an attack duty? Let's fast forward to the end of the first month of next season's championship campaign and see how Adams is performing. And after 8 games, Southampton's promotion push is underway and they currently sit 6th in the table. But how is our player retraining going? And the answer is quite good. He's now fairly accustomed to playing in a central midfield role, having played there 10 times so far this campaign. 4 goals in the league and 2 in the Carabao Cup mean he's already matched his goal-scoring accomplishments from last season when he was playing as a striker, and he's already added 4 assists. The coaches believe he'd be best deployed as Mazzala or an advanced playmaker, but we're going to continue with him in a central midfield berth with an attack duty and see whether he can keep up his good early season form after 20 games. He's still performing well, but he's perhaps not quite pulling as good stats as he was earlier on in the season, but he does now have 6 assists and 6 goals in the league and 8 goals and 8 assists overall for the season. He's still averaging above a 7, but if we fast forward to the end of the campaign, can he get those numbers up any further? Well, he'll certainly be a Premier League player next season once more as Southampton have gained promotion, and it would appear that Che Adams has been instrumental. He's now completely at home in the central midfield areas, and his ability to play in those roles have improved from 2.5 to 3 stars. And from that central midfield berth, he really does seem to be a goal-scoring threat with 18 for the campaign as well as 7 assists. His performance in the cup competitions mean that he rattled in 20 goals in total, and he seemed to really show an innate ability to race forward and display the finishing that he wasn't showing as a striker. With 2 other midfielders around him, it gave him license to really attack the box, and he really utilised that player trait of placing his shots. But of course, we should remember that Adams was playing well at a championship level. Will we have as much luck retraining a player who's performing week in, week out in the Premier League? Well, to find out, how about we go from bottom club Southampton to top of the table champions Manchester City, where Jack Grealish made just 27 league appearances, most of which were from the bench, and he could only contribute 1 assist, 2 goals, and an average rating of 6.78. Like Che Adams, Jack Grealish is already incredibly versatile and can play on either flank in central midfield or as an attacking midfielder and can even fill in up front. As of yet, he has no ability to play as a defensive midfielder. But what if he was at the base of the midfield starting moves instead? Perhaps as a roaming playmaker where he could bring the ball forward, create chances for teammates with his passing of 14 and vision of 16. The marking may not be ideal for that area of the pitch, but attributes such as the teamwork and work rate are good, as is the strength and the stamina and the natural fitness. But his first touch, technique, composure and decision-making, as well as his anticipation, mean that he could be a valuable playmaker from a deep position. So can we rebrand Jack Grealish as a roaming playmaker at the base of a midfield triangle and try and improve the fortunes of this £100 million talent? Well, after 8 games, his club are performing well and they are unbeaten in the league. But how has Grealish adapted to his new role? The answer is surprisingly quickly. Bearing in mind he had no ability to play in that role just a couple of months ago, he's already fairly accustomed to playing as a defensive midfielder. His performances mean that Real Madrid are interested in his services, and he's already got 4 goal involvements in just 8 games and an average rating of 7.19. But is this just a flash in the proverbial pan, or can he sustain this upturn in form? Well, after 21 games, his performances are solid, if not spectacular. He's now got 8 goal involvements, and his average rating has dropped to just 7.06. And whilst he's listed as being accomplished in the position, he's still not natural there, but maybe that will have changed by the end of the season. Well, at the end of the campaign, Grealish won't be celebrating Champions League success after their exit to Bayern Munich. But in terms of his league performance, he's had a vastly better season than he did last campaign. He's still not completely natural in the role, but in the league he's scored 2 goals, the same as last season, but has now contributed 11 assists rather than just 1, and has an average rating above a 7. Perhaps this wasn't as successful a player retraining as Shea Adams was, but we've still got one more trick up our sleeve. And for that, we're going to head across the city to 5th place, Manchester United, where, like Grealish, Jadon Sancho had a thoroughly miserable campaign. Making just 18 starts and 11 appearances off the bench, he registered just 2 goals and 1 assist, with an average rating of just 6.78. Over 2 seasons, that's not been much return for £73 million. Now, like our other 2 players, Sancho is already a versatile player, and looking at his attributes, perhaps he doesn't quite have the physical elements to his game to play a central midfield berth, but could he be the answer to Manchester United's striker dilemmas? He's the first of the players that we're going to retrain that has some ability already to play in that role, although it is quite limited, and his attributes suggest that he could be a useful striker. He's certainly quick and has good agility, and running at defences he'll have dribbling of 18. In a creative sense, his passing and vision are good. He can do the unexpected with flair of 16, but moving him into a central area, we might be able to capitalise on that finishing of 14, the off-the-ball movement of the same score, but particularly that composure and anticipation of 15. So could we turn Jadon Sancho from a wide man into an advanced forward and the spearhead of Manchester United's attack? Well, let's have a look at how he gets on in his first 8 games. And the answer is pretty well, as he's already accomplished in the role, and in his first 9 games as a Premier Division striker, he's already scored 5 goals plus contributed an assist. And pleasingly, he's outperforming his XG in his new role. But this might just be beginner's luck. Let's see how he's getting on halfway through the campaign. Well, he shows no sign of letting up. After 21 games, Manchester United are inside the Champions League qualification spots, and young Sancho is their top scorer with 18 goals. He's still contributing more than a goal every 2 matches, and he's still outperforming his XG. He's already had some truly memorable moments, including scoring a hat-trick in a Premier League game against struggling side Watford. And you can already see early on in his time as a striker, he does look like a natural finisher. And he's shown that he can score goals on the biggest of occasions, including on Derby Day. But by the end of the campaign, can he get to that magical 20 Premier League goal mark? Well, he certainly has a good chance, as Manchester United finished the season in 3rd and Sancho has 30 goals in all competitions, including 21 in the league, as well as 5 assists, 5 Player of the Match awards and an average rating of 7.14. Certainly, his most productive season at Manchester United. He's now a natural playing as an advanced forward, and as well as his league form, he scored 8 in 12 Europa League games, and he's helped Manchester United qualify for the final of that competition. Could our player training end with a winner's medal in a European competition? Of course it can. And while Sancho wasn't on the score sheet, he did turn provider for the equaliser for Bruno Fernandes. So hopefully that is evidence that we might be able to take players that have been performing poorly and given a retraining of their position, turn them into a more useful member of our squad. But what are the most important things to look out for when deciding what position we're going to retrain them in? Well, for me, the starting point was to try and diagnose reasons why the player might not be performing well in their current position. So in the case of Che Adams, certainly physically he looks like a Premier League striker and his off-the-ball movement is good. But perhaps it's that finishing and composure that are only 12 that are maybe not quite high enough to succeed as a striker at the top level. So the next stage is to look at the player's strengths and try and work out whether there are other areas of the pitch where they might be utilised better. So with Adams, those physical attributes that make him a Premier League striker could be equally useful in midfield, and certainly that teamwork, work rate, passing and vision could be useful in central areas. With Adams, his long shots is actually better than his finishing, so we might be good from deeper positions. And in terms of choosing his role, his off-the-ball movement as well as his dribbling mean that he could be well suited to roles that try to get forward more. With Grealish, the weaknesses are more difficult to define. He certainly has attributes of 14 and 15 in lots of key areas that could make him a good wide man. But perhaps at the very top level, 14 and 15 is not quite high enough. But maybe in deeper positions, Grealish might get more time and space on the ball. And maybe from those areas we could utilise his vision, his first touch, his technique in order to try and create more chances for others. And then with that dribbling and flair, we try to select a role that would allow him to burst forward from deeper positions and try and unsettle opposition defences. Again, with Sancho, there were some other elements to his game that may have been holding him back. Whilst his pace was good, it was not electric. As a conventional wide player on the right, his crossing wasn't great, and cutting in from the left, his long shots were one of the weaker areas of his game. But for any kind of creative role, it's probably his decision-making of 12 that may have been holding him back. So how could we utilise Sancho in a role that might make the best of his assets? Well, his acceleration, anticipation and off-the-ball movement mean that he might be able to get in behind opposition defences. His dribbling means that in central areas he could really go at opposition centre-halves. But as a forward in front of goal, it's that composure of 15 that led us to try him out as an advanced forward. So maybe this video could inspire you to experiment with some new roles for your own misfiring stars.